Welcome back. Now I'm going to share with you about my favourite part actually, how oils helped support me through my most recent labour. There are a couple of things that you need to remember when getting ready for an oily birth. The first thing is that you spend a lot of time thinking about this, a lot of time researching it, and the other people in your delivery room probably don't. You are probably the most oily person in that space, and you are not actually able to communicate. So you need to outline things very, very clearly. I had this, my oily birth plan, which is a document I'll share with you, which I gave to my husband a few weeks before. We went through it and I explained things to him, but it's pretty descriptive in what I want and what those things mean. It doesn't even just say diffuse these things. It says diffuse. Fill the diffuser to the marker with water and add 3 to 5 drops of either. And then a list of the things, the options, and what those things do. It was quite explicit, and I also did quite a lot of work to get things ready so that they didn't have to think about anything. They just had to do it to make things really easy for them, because birth isn't just a little bit of a stressful time for your body, it's actually stressful for the people supporting you as well. They're trying to do everything right by you, and if you don't communicate things properly, then they're going to get really frustrated and you're going to get really frustrated, and it's not going to be fun. I'm sitting by the fire because my baby's sleeping right next to me, and I've got lots of oils to show you, so I needed to sit on the floor to have lots of room to lay them all out. So before labour begins, for me, I, with all of my kids, have had a long pre-labour. So we're talking 7 hours of deep contractions anywhere, deep, like period pain contractions, 3 to 15 minutes apart for 7-ish hours. Now, I didn't want to do that this time, so I researched a lot of oils to help me speed labour along. The problem is that I didn't actually really get to use them. So earlier in the week, before I actually went into real labour, I thought I was in labour, so I used them then, and it did kind of keep those coming, but then I went to bed and it all stopped. It wasn't actually real labour. So that was clary sage massage. There's a pressure point kind of on your leg and your calf, above your ankle bone. Just adjust this a little bit. You can look up exactly where that pressure point is, but a little bit of clary sage in there, and smelling jasmine. I diffused jasmine all week, the week I went into labour. I was ready for that baby to be born. And then rubbing Lang Lang and fennel into your feet are all supposed to help speed up contractions, establish consistent contractions, increase the severity, get the contractions really working for you. But on the day I went into labour, I didn't actually get to use any of them. I went into my pre-labour in the morning, said to my husband when we were waking up, yeah, we're probably going to have a baby today. Go to work hard. I'm going to have to call you at some stage. And then I had to take my son to dancing, and I had a midwife appointment, and she said, yeah, that's not a Braxton Hicks, that's a real contraction. We'll see you in a little while. I went back home, and at about 2 o'clock, right when I'm trying to get my kids to go to sleep, labour kicked in. So I didn't actually have any time that morning to try my established labour oil plan, which I was a little bit annoyed about. And so was my husband. We were driving to the hospital, and he said, I'm actually really sad. I'd worked really hard to remember all of those things and figure out what I needed to do. So you might like to try that. I'll share my oily birth plan document with you. That's got those details written on it in case you want to try it. That might be helpful for you. So we got to the hospital. Something else I want to say about birth is it's really, really common to become smell averse to things when you're in labour. Even things that in labour 5 minutes ago the smell was really lovely and you found helpful, right now makes you want to vomit. Labour is like that. It's weird. So I wanted to have multiple options for different things, and multiple options were available in case that happened to me. So for example, to diffuse, which I had everything packed in little Ziploc bags, said diffuse. These are all the things you can diffuse, just to make it really simple for my husband. He's waking up. In my diffuse bag, I have Joy, Gentle Baby Peppermint, Citrus Fresh, and Cedarwood. They all do different things. They all smell very different. And so I just wanted to have them there. I have written at the very top of my birth plan, before using any of these oils, please let me smell it to confirm it's okay to use at the time. So we got to the hospital, we got into our birth suite, and my husband just went, I had a bag that was just the birth suite bag. It had all my oils in it and my diffuser. Change of clothes for both of us, snacks, bottles of water, that kind of thing. Everything we needed in there. So he unpacked everything. He laid out all of the oils on the table. It was really awesome. He set up a diffuser. Came and asked me what I wanted diffusing, and I was like, I feel a bit nauseous. Let's diffuse peppermint. So peppermint diffused while I was labouring the whole time, which was really, really lovely. Now, being me, I made a few things. Oh, I've lost something. I made some stuff because that's what I do. So I had in my labour bag, in my labour little Ziploc bag thing, Valor, which I don't think we actually ended up using, which is fine. I actually only expected to use a quarter of what I took, and I used almost half of it. I had Valor, I had Panaway, which we used, I have a washcloth blend, which I'll talk to you about, and a massage blend, and I had this massage lotion, which we didn't actually end up using, but I wanted to have an alternative to the massage blend I'd made, just in case. And I also had my massager, which we didn't end up using either. I labour in the front, so having really nice back massages is nice, but not that helpful. So I have a doula that's with me in labour, and she spent my contractions massaging some weird pressure point at the top of your bum and the bottom of your back. That was amazing. So she was using this massage lotion that I made, which has lavender, jasmine, peppermint, frankincense, Roman chamomile, and fennel in it, and it was amazing. She was amazing. It was beautiful. So every contraction, I tried using gas because gas had worked really well for me in the past, but I didn't like it this time. I found it easier to just focus and use my oils and get through. So I probably only used gas for about half an hour of my entire labour. I did, before I went to hospital, while I was waiting for my husband to come home, I did put some of this massage potion in some Epsom salts and in the bath. It got me through the 20 minutes waiting for him to get home and get me to the hospital. Then when we got to the hospital, my doula was massaging this into my back, while my husband was putting my washcloth blend onto washcloths, running warm water and putting a few drops of this on it. It has Roman chamomile, lavender, jasmine, and geranium. So he was holding that on my abdomen while I was contracting. My doula was massaging my lower back with my massage lotion, and I didn't use gas. It was really, really awesome. And then after each contraction, I'd have a drink of water, and then we'd get set to start again. So I laboured like that for probably, from 2 o'clock, and then probably about 5 o'clock. I was fully dilated, but my baby wasn't actually in the birth canal. I felt like the midwife was elbow deep trying to find that baby. So there was lots of pushing for me. I probably ended up pushing for close to an hour to actually get baby to engage, which ended up happening. And so I went through a stage where I was just, doing contractions like normal. Everything was going well. And I started getting really gassy. I was burping a lot. And so they gave me an injection to stop me from vomiting at my request, because I don't want to vomit. And then a little while later, the midwife examined me and she said, "You're 10 centimeters." And I said, "Oh, I can't be." And they're like, let's break your waters and get pushing. I said, "But I haven't transitioned yet." And my daughter said, "Well, you probably have. That was probably what all of that burping was about." I said, "I haven't transitioned yet. I don't want to give up. We're having an actual conversation. I'm not super stressed. I'm not overwhelmed. I don't want to quit. I could keep going. And she said, you have transitioned. And honestly, I think it was my oils that helped put me in such a great place, that was supporting my body and my emotions. And so I didn't actually go through what I was used to, what I had done both previous pregnancies. My husband has told everyone, you know the baby's coming within the hour when your wife bites your head off and throws you around the room. Not literally, but I get angry. I transition and I get angry, and that didn't happen to me. So they're telling me that it's time to push. Got to get this baby to engage. So I pushed for probably about an hour. And when I said to my husband, we're in transition, he moved on to the transition part of his instructions, which told him to put frankincense onto the perineum and the vaginal opening to ease the burning. So I pre-mixed this with a carrier oil. I only had a few drops left in this bottle of frankincense, so I just added the carrier oil straight to it. So he didn't know it was diluted. He doesn't need to know it was diluted. He didn't need that stress in his life. I just made that happen for him. So he put a little bit on his finger. My doula helped give him directions and make sure it was all going on the right spot. Massage it into the perineum and around the vaginal opening. And I did not experience any burning in delivery, which was phenomenal because I did last time. My first pregnancy, I had an episiotomy, so everything was anaesthetized. I didn't feel my child being born. I didn't know he had been born. I was getting ready to push again. I was getting ready for the next contraction, and suddenly they put a baby on my chest. That was really strange. My second baby, that didn't happen. It was completely natural and normal, and it burnt like hell. I was screaming. I'd forgotten that was something to expect because I didn't experience it my first time. And so it was an experience that I did not want to have again. So when I read that frankincense had been said to ease the burning, I was like, yes, that's what I'm doing. And everyone would ask me about what I was going to do with oils in my labour. This was what I mentioned. I'm like, frankincense is supposed to stop the burning. I'm doing the frankincense thing. And it did. I did not feel any burning at all, to the point where after the delivery, just sitting there holding my baby and chatting with my doula, she said to me, you didn't have any burning, did you, this time? I said, no. She's like, I noticed. She noticed that I didn't have burning. So I highly recommend frankincense, especially if you've delivered before and you've experienced burning. I talked to one of my friends the other day. She's like, oh, I didn't have any burning with any of my 3 children. I'm like, well, that's nice for you because I did. So most people do. She has weird pregnancies where, she sneezes and there's a baby. But for most people, there's burning, and for burning, there is frankincense. Dilute it with a carrier oil and get someone to apply it for you. So my husband did that for me, and he also got a washcloth, a wet washcloth, and put some pan away on it, and put that on the back of my neck and my shoulders while I was while I was pushing, which was actually really awesome. We had to take it off after a little while. It's quite a hot oil, so it did kind of start to feel burning, but it definitely helped with back pain and things that I was experiencing in that final stage. So then I delivered ahead with no burning, which was remarkable. My baby was actually facing sideways. He was born looking that way, looking at his dad, which also meant that his shoulders came out sideways, so that hurt, but there was still no burning. And then after the birth, we got the washcloth blend and put it on my stomach, on my abdomen again, to help expel the placenta. And by then the diffuser was finished, so we put on some Joy to set the mood for me and Bub. So that was my labour, and I have to say that it was the best labour that I've experienced. It was 4 hours all up in established labour, and it was a really, really lovely experience for me. It was hard work, definitely was, with a bub that wouldn't enter the birth canal. That was less than ideal, and it was hard work. but it wasn't traumatic, and it wasn't difficult. It was just hard work. Yeah, and I even noticed a difference in my husband, in his experience. He was a lot more joyful through the birth and could cope because I was coping, but also I think he was surrounded by all these beautiful smells that were just making life easy. And every time a midwife walked in the room, I'd say, "Oh, it smells so lovely in here." And my husband, who is oily, skeptic at best, was saying things like, "Oh, it's the essential oils." And I'm in labour, and I can hear my husband in the corner, like upselling everyone on essential oils, which he 90% knows nothing about, except for his experience on that day. And it was such a good experience for him that I'm pretty sure he's now a full oily convert. So anyway, that's my labour. As I said, I'll share my oily birth plan document with you so that you can look at it. Most of this has come from the Gentle Babies book, which is really, really helpful. And then I did a lot of research. I passed it on to a friend who is into essential oils but outside of Young Living, and she passed it on to a aromatherapist who's also a doula that's a friend of hers, and she read over my birth plan and said, "Yep, that sounds really great." So for me, it's not just something I read in a book, it's something that I've researched and had vetted by a few different people. My friend had an oily birth 12 months ago, so compared to what she had, similar things she had experienced, and built on some of that knowledge as well. So I hope that this is helpful. I pray that you have beautiful births, and that you are able to give birth in an environment that supports you, and where you are allowed to give birth how you want to. That would be my prayer for you. I will see you in our next video, where I'm going to talk about how to look after you after baby has arrived. Thank you.